Okay, before we start, maybe don't forget to fill the presence form. It's already in the chat room. Okay, everybody, we will start now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to ICMR Insight, the 10th International Conference on Multidisciplinary Research in conjunction with the 2nd International and National Symposium on Aquatic Environment and Fisheries 2021. Okay, my name is Siska Melissa. I will be serving as your moderator today. And now we are in the poster session. So before we start, I would like to inform you some rules. First, the poster presentation will be presented as a flash presentation. And the second, the time provided for poster presenter is only 5 minutes for the presentation without question and answer session. Okay, maybe we can heard for the first presenter. Now let's please welcome our first presenter, Mr. Ilham Zulfahmi. Okay, Mr. Ilham. Are you already here? Okay. We move to the next presenter, Anwar Deli. Okay, it's okay. We'll move to the fourth presenter, Iko Imelda Arisa. Okay, please welcome Ms. Iko Imelda Arisa. The time is yours. Okay, I will share the screen.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iko Imelda Arisa. I'm a lecturer at Aquaculture Department, Universitas Syah Kuala. Thank you for the opportunity given. Today, I will present the result of our research on effect of Cassia alata leaf extract on egg hatching and survival of Pangasius larvae. Effort to control disease in culture fish egg due to pathogenic infection that use chemical or antibiotic in the long term can have negative impact. Among other, can cause resistance to bacteria and fungi and can pollute the environment. So that the infectious disease need alternative treatment, such as the use of natural ingredients. One of the natural ingredients that have the potential to inhibit the growth of pathogen in fish is the use of Cassia alata leaf. Bahi et al. 2014, Cassia alata leaf contain flavonoid saponin, tannin, alkaloid, and anthocyanin compound. And the list of this compound is 0.23% that content can be used to antimicrobial. The researcher want to study the effect of using Cassia alata leaf extract on the prevention of fungus on fish egg of Fungicius sp. The study was conducted at Fish Center Blang PD, Aceh Barat Daya, Aceh, Indonesia, at July to August 2020. The design of the study is to use a completely random design using 7 treatment and 3 replication. The treatment tests in the study are as follow. A, soaking with hot Cassia alata leaf extract 0 ppm. B, soaking with Cassia alata leaf extract dose 2.5 ppm. C, 5 ppm. D, 7.5 ppm. E, 10 ppm. F, 12.5 ppm. G, 15 ppm. Based on the research on the study, it is known that the use of Cassia alata leaf extract can increase the egg hatchability and survival of Fungicius fish, where the higher the dose of extract used in the treatment will also increase the hatchability of fish egg. And Bowo et al. 2014 start the leaf extract of Cassia alata with a concentration 6 ppm show the best result in inhibiting the growth of the fungus Saprophylla, while hatchability and survival of crack larvae were highest at a dose of 10 ppm. And for water quality parameter are important in the process of the hatching fish eggs and the spread of the fungi. The value of the rank of water quality parameter during the study was still in the rank of living tolerance of Fungicius sp. You can look at table 2. And then the conclusion, the use of Cassia alata leaf extract affect the hatchability of fish egg and the survival of Fungicius sp. Fish larvae. The highest fish egg hatchability value of 85.33% was obtained by soaking Cassia alata leaf extract at the dose of 15 ppm. And the survival rate value, the highest 5 larvae of 92.99% was obtained at a dose of 10 ppm. Okay, thank you, Ms. Siska Melissa.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Iko Imelda Arissa. Okay, now we move to the next presenter, Mr. Alfish Shahril. Yeah, Mr. Alfish is already here, yeah? Okay, I will share screen.
Okay, thank you for a moment, Miss Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh. And good afternoon. Good afternoon, our participant. Thanks for opportunity. Today I will present my research poster with the title Production of Faname Shrimp Lithopenaus faname in high density polyethylene tarpaulin pond with various stocking density, with author me, Alfish Shahril, Kartini Aryani, Reza Putra, Muhammad Noval, Nur Fadila, and Sari Afriani. And introduction in this research, Faname shrimp have a wide tolerance to environmental parameter and having a high growth rate and tolerance for high stocking density. Therefore, it is necessary to conduct research to the optimal stocking density of Fanami shrimp culture in high-density polyethylene HDPE tarpaulin pond. And the study aim to analyze the growth and survival of Fanami shrimp in HDPE, high-density polyethylene tarpaulin pond with different stocking density. And method in this research to experimental designs. You can to bottom, Miss Moderator. Method, okay, to method and experimental design. Use a completely random design with 3-level treatment and 3 replication. The first statement, stocking density of 100 shrimp for a cubic meter. The second, stocking density of 150 shrimp for cubic meter. And the last treatment, stocking density of 100 shrimp for a meter cubic. And research procedure begin okay, to bottom. Okay. The research procedure began with acclimatization of first larva egg day to research products began from PT Suritani Pamuka. After that, the shrimp were stocked according to treatment to tarpaulin pond. And shrimp, next, can up. Shrimp were reared for 90 days and a given feed powder, crumble powder, and pellet powder with frequency 5 times a day. In variable in this research, initial weight, final weight, daily growth rate, feed conversion rate, survival rate, and the result obtained can be seen in table 1, namely final weight and daily growth, and survival rate is not significant, while the feed conversion ratio is different significant. This shows that the lower the feed conversion ratio, the higher the feed efficiency. And the graph also show that the green bar is higher than the other treatment. This happened because the high density will cause limited space and competition for food living space and limited oxygen. So the average weight gain, shrimp, and survival rate and feed conversion ratio products at the end rearing is not optimal. And based of observation of water quality in this research, temperature, salinity, pH, DO, and ammonia are in the tolerant range. So the conclusion in this research, optimal stocking density for maintenance of Fanami shrimp is 100 shrimp for cubic meter. This is indicated by the high grow yield 25 gram and survival rate of 82%. Okay, I will finish.
Okay, thank you very much.
Participant.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Alvis, for the interesting topic. Okay, now we go to the next presenter, Mr. Agus Widi Priyana. Yeah, Mr. Agus Widi is already here. Mr. Agus Widi?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I will share. Oh, okay, I will share your poster. Okay, Mr. Agus Widi Priyana. Okay, the time is yours. Please present the poster.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Siska Melisa, for your times. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Introduce my name is Agus Widi Priyana. I'm a student of the Medicine Study Program at the Shafala University. On this occasion, I will present or share my experience about my research entitled Mapping the Potential of Fishing Zones based on sea surface temperature and chlorophyll A in the waters of Aceh Besar, Indonesia. Okay, strike the introduction. Geographically, Aceh Besar Regency is located at coordinates 5.05 degree to 5.75 degree north latitude and 94.99 degree to 95.93 degree east longitude. Aceh Besar Regency has a coastline of 296.16 kilometers and sea area of 1,351.01 square kilometers. Oceanographic conditions that greatly affect the abundance of fish are the distribution of chlorophyll A and sea surface temperature. By knowing the sea surface temperature and the distribution of chlorophyll A through remote sensing system, it is possible to predict potential fishing zones. The study aims to determine the potential for fishing zone using geographic information system through the distribution of sea surface temperature and chlorophyll A concentration in the water of Aceh Besar. Well, this map is the location of my research, which is in the waters of Aceh Besar. Here I use a map with a scale 1 to 500,000. The data that I use in this study include fishing ground obtained by interviewing fishermen and image data from the MODIS satellites. The satellite imagery that I use has a time span from January 2019 to December 2019 with a spatial resolution of 4 kilometers. Well, in determining the potential zone of fishing, I determined based on the fishing potential zone assessment through sea surface temperatures indicators and chlorophyll A. The table is an assessment indicator that I use in determining the potential fishing zones. Okay, then we go to results and discussion. The distribution of sea surface temperatures in the waters of Aceh Besar from January to December 2019, based on the result of MODIS satellite image extraction, has very varied values. The highest sea surface temperatures in April was 31.62 Celsius degrees, and the lowest temperature detected in December was 28.45 Celsius degrees. Next is the distribution of chlorophyll A. The result of MODIS satellite image extraction show that the highest average value of chlorophyll A concentration in Aceh Besar waters is in December, which is 1.53 milligram per cubic meters. The lowest concentration of chlorophyll A occurs in June and September at 0. milligram per cubic meters. Well, here I had a map of the estimate fishing potential in Aceh Besar waters per month. In this map, I added fishing ground data from interviews with several fishermen, as well as sea surface temperature data and chlorophyll A data from the MODIS satellite. The result of data analysis based on fishing grounds in Aceh Besar are different from the result of data analysis conducted through the Geographic Information System. By the way, this dots represents fishing area data for fishermen, while the blue circles represent potential fishing areas. Well, I determined this estimation of the fishing area based on the table of assessment of fishing potential zone through indicator of sea surface temperatures and chlorophyll A, which I showed earlier in the method. The fishing grounds of fishermen are spread over almost all temperature ranges and the amount of chlorophyll A. This may be caused by several other parameters that can affect the existence of fishing grounds. As stated by Edmond Rie in 1060 that the distribution of pelagic fish is strongly influenced by oceanographic conditions such as temperature, salinity, surface currents, and dissolved oxygen. The conclusion I can give from this research is that the highest sea surface temperatures occurs in April, which is 31.62 Celsius degrees, and the lowest temperature in December, which is 28.45 Celsius degrees. MODIS satellite image extraction results show the highest average chlorophyll A concentration in Aceh Besar waters in December of 1.53 milligram per cubic meters, and the lowest concentration of chlorophyll A in June and September of 0.20 milligram per cubic meters. The estimation of potential fishing zones during January to December 2019 found as many as 62 potential fishing zones. The most zones were found in December, as many as 8 zones, and the least found in July, as many as 1 zone. Furthermore, in this research, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the military TV team for the facilities that have been given to me to make it easier for me to carry out this research. And I thank the Ocean Diving Club of Syekh Kuala University for the knowledge that has been given to me in making maps, and all parties involved indirectly or indirectly, which I cannot mention one by one. Okay, thanks everyone for your time and attention. Sorry if there are errors or omissions. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I leave it to the moderator.
Thank you. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Agus, for informative talk. Okay, maybe I will call again the previous presenter, Mr. Ilham Zulfahmi. It's already here. Mr. Ilham. Mr. Ilham Zulfahmi. Okay. Okay, how about Mr. Muhammadar?
Yeah.
Okay. Your representative from Mr. Muhammadar? Okay. Yeah, you can share the poster file, yeah? Because we don't have your file. Okay. Oh, you don't have poster, Atria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cannot.
Atria, do you have poster file?
No, Miss.
Or you want, yeah?
No, I'm not her spotter.
Okay. It's okay, but it's only 5 minutes, yeah, Atria, because this is the poster session. Okay. Maybe you can explain briefly, yeah? It's only 5 minutes. Okay, please, Atria Makfira. Yeah, Miss Atria? Is there any problem?
I think, Miss.
Okay, you can share the file now. Okay, is it okay? Okay, maybe we will change for the next presenter. And after that, we will back to Atria again. It's okay, yeah? Atria Makfira? Yeah, maybe you can prepare the file first. Yeah, okay. We will go to the next presenter, Miss Kavinta Melani. Yeah, Miss Kavinta Melani is already here.
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Siska.
Yeah, I will share the poster. Wait a minute. Is it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum
Okay, please,
warahmatullahi
Ms. Kavinta. Okay.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the chance, Ms. Siska. Today I would like to present my research with the title The Prevalence and Intensity of Ectoparasite that Infected Tilapia Including Net Cage. Our team is myself, Mr. Afdal, Amalia Suryani, Ms. Siska Melissa, and also Mr. Rian Juanda. A briefly introduction. The Batanghari River is the longest river in Jambi province. That the watershed is used by the community as a fish cultivation area using a floating net cage system. The type of fish cultivated in this floating net cage is dominated by tilapia. The production of tilapia from 2016 around 11 tons and then decreased in 2017 to 10 tons. This is due to a disease that attack the tilapia. The disease is a serious problem when faced by cultivator because it can be cause death in the aquaculture biota. The ectoparasite that most common disease often attack the tilapia is Trichodina, Dactylogyrus, Gyrodactylogyrus, Argulus, and Epistelis. The purpose of this study was to determine the type of ectoparasite, prevalency, and intensity of ectoparasite that infect tilapia in the marine cage, in floating net cage of Batanghari River, Jambi province. This research conducted in February to March 2020. The sampling of tilapia done in floating net cage in the river, then the identification and observation of ectoparasite carried at fish quarantine, quality control, and safety of fishery product class 1 in Jambi station. For the research procedure is the first sample collection. As many as 90 fish taken from the floating nets randomly and then taken to the laboratory for examination. The water quality measurement carried out prior to fish sampling. The last is examination of ectoparasite on the fish organ, body surface, fish and gills. And then the type of ectoparasite found, observed for morphology, and then identified using the Kabata book. For the data analysis is prevalence and intensity. I'm sorry for the table 1 is I put the wrong table. In the table 1, among the 3 stations, the highest parasite that found is on the station 1 with a total 391 individual of parasite. So the prevalence is the highest on this station. And then we can see the on the table 2 the type of parasite. The type of parasite is mostly in the tilapia. We found Epistelis with the number is 842. And then the third table, among the 3 parts on the tilapia body, the scale part are the most early found the parasite. Then the level of prevalence and intensity of parasite at each sampling station mostly influenced by water quality parameter, which caused by pollution area around the water, both household waste, industrial waste, and also agriculture waste. The highest prevalence and intensity value found on the station 1, we can see on the table, the first table. And then the third station showed the lowest prevalence and intensity among all stations. One of the factors that cause difference in the prevalence and intensity of each type of parasite is the condition of the environmental that support the life of the parasite. The high prevalence and intensity of Epistelis affected by a lot of organic matter around the cultivation area. The parasite like Dactylogyrus is a parasite that often found in freshwater and seawater fish. This parasite live in gill belong to Monogenea. And Oodinium, including to fish parasite that cause velvet disease that infected the skin and gill of fish. In this study, Epistelis a lot of check on the scale. It has a protease enzyme excretory organ that is used to take the protein from the host skin so that it can facilitate the occurrence of secondary infection by the bacteria. And the water quality parameter value indicate that the river has a tolerance limit for tilapia cultivation and still considered ideal in developing freshwater community aquaculture, especially tilapia. And for the last is conclusion. The type of ectoparasite found in tilapia, namely Epistelis, Oodinium, and Dactylogyrus. The highest prevalence and intensity based on the type parasite found from Epistelis species. Thank you, Ms. Siska. Jasal.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Katinta Melanie, for the interactive topic. Now we move to the next presenter, Mr. Ihsan Setiawan. Okay, Mr. Ihsan, it's already here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ihsan, I will share the poster.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Ihsan Setiawan, please present your poster. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you for your attention. Our title in my research, refraction and diffraction of sea wave in Lok Nga and Lampu Coastal Water, Aceh Besar District, Indonesia. Authors, myself, Ihsan Setiawan, Sarifah Rahyuni, Yopi Ilhamsah, and Muhammad Irham. This study discuss the refraction and diffraction of sea waves in the coastal water of Lok Nga and Lampu. Lampu and Lok Nga beach are located on the west coast of the tip of Sumatra Island in the Aceh Besar district of Aceh Province in figure 1. This beach is unique because of its geographical location, which is between two main currents, namely the Indian Ocean Current and the Malacca Straits Current. Rizal et al. 2013, Irham and Setiawan 2017. Aim of our research, the purpose of this study was to conclude the distribution of propagation, refraction, and diffraction of waves in the waters of Lampu and Lok Nga. Methods of our research, the numerical method used in this study on the equation of swelling, refraction, and wave diffraction developed by Kotitas and Dean and Darlimper. Data for the numerical model were obtained from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration WaveWatch 3 Global Wave. So you can see in figure 2. Next. Result and discussion show in figure 3 and figure 4. Figure 3 show the propagation of sea wave, and figure 4 height of sea wave in the waters of Lampu and Lok Nga. Next, based on the result appear, it concludes that point 1, the maximum wave height due to the propagation of sea wave is 3.5 meters. Point 2, the propagation of sea wave spread in the bay area and college in the headland area. The authors would like to thank the Institute for Research and Community Service at Universitas Syah Kuala for the research fund provided through the head lecturer grant. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Siska,
Yeah.
and for all of you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ihsan Setiawan, for the interesting topic. Okay, yeah, I will call again the previous presenter, Mr. Ilham Zulfahmi. Yeah, Mr. Ilham.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Siska Melissa. Can I start?
Okay, the time is yours. Please present the poster.
Let me share you the presentation first. I'm sure I apologize not present the poster, but I will try to complete it as soon as possible as you wish.
Yeah.
Thank you for let me present you our latest manuscript entitled Commercial Marine Fish from Weh Island, Indonesia, checklist. Distribution pattern, conservation status, and economic importance by me, Ilham Zulfahmi, and several other authors from Maulida Afriansyah, Agung Setia Batubara, Mulyari, Neri Kausari, Kizar, Ahmed Sumon, and the last Muhammad Mahmudur Rahman. As we know that Weh Island's water is considered as one of the highest marine biodiversity ecosystem in the world. Previous result by Fadli Rodi inform us that at least 350 coral fish species, including 30 family, was documented in water body of West Island. Besides, several pelagic fish, including big fish tuna, yellowfin tuna, also reported. However, to date, studies conducted on the fish fauna in West Island are still incomprehensive. Several studies only limited on reef fish diversity, reef fisheries management, and coral reef conservation. The study related to marine commercial marine fish is not well developed yet. Thus, this study aims to provide a checklist of marine commercial fish from West Island, focusing their distribution pattern, updating the conservation status, and assessing their economic importance. Data were collected from 3 fish markets in West Island, namely Cangkowan fish, were located in the center of the island. Kuta Timu fish market were located in the north, and the last Balohan fish market were located in the south side of the island. Fish was classification by their local name, Indonesian name, and scientific name. Besides, commercial value fish was divided into 3 categories, namely low commercial value, middle commercial value, and high commercial value. Distributive pattern was not based on the availability of fish in each of 3 markets, and the conservation status were determined by using the IUCN website. What we get is a total of 50 species belonging to 8 order and 24 family was collected during study. Perciformes was a predominant order followed by Tetradontiformes. In other side, Carangidae was the predominant family, followed by Scaridae, were 12% and 10% respectively. Based on the distribution pattern, the highest number of fish was reported in Kuta Timur Fish Market as the larger fish market in Weh Island, followed by Balohan Fish Market and Changkawan Fish Market with 35 and 34 species respectively. And also Carangidae was a predominant family in all fish market, ranging from 12 and 14%. Based on distribution, we can see this 26 species was detected in 3 fish market. Only 9 species found in Kuta Timur Fish Market, and only 1 species called founded in the Balohan Fish Market. So in the left side, we also see the conservation status of the marine commercial fish, when 78% were classified as least concern, 7 or 50 or 14% was classified as not evaluated, and the rest is classified as near treated and data deficient. Based on the economic important, 3 family was categorized as the high commercial value, including Clupidae, Carcanidae, and Serranidae. The important point of this research is the first, based on the IUCN data, 78% of marine commercial fish we collected were classified as least concern. It means or indicating that they are lack of complementary information of biological status of this fish. The second, this study also indicate that several indicator species, for instance, kakak tua fish, local name.
Sorry, Mr. Ilham.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the time limit is almost off.
Yeah, this is the last slide.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah.
Such as Carangidae family was still commercialized massively in Weh Island fish market. So we also conclude that Weh Island has potential as an export station for Serranidae fish, or we also call kerapu, ikan kerapu. For the future studies related to biological and ecological aspect of fish based on its conservation status are indispensable to improve our knowledge and effort in utilization of fisheries resources. Thank you for your kind attention.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ilham, for your interesting topic. Okay, now we go to the next presenter, Mr. Anwar Deli. Are you already here? How about Atria Makfira? No? Okay. Okay, we go to the last presenter. The last presenter is me, Siska Melissa. Okay, I will present our research. Yeah. Okay. Our research is about induction of oocyte developer hormones or OODF and the maturity of Poropontius taurensis. Okay, our team is Siska Melissa, it's me, and Kasturi Aramdayani, my student, and Iwan Hasri. Okay, as we know, Poropontius taurensis is an endemic fish belonging to the Cyprinidae family found in Laut Tawar Lake, Central Aceh, Indonesia. Or in Central Aceh, we can call a kawan fish, or ikan kawan. Yeah, Poropontius taurensis actually has a limited distribution, and the fertilization only occurs in the rainy season. And also, the Poropontius taurensis are currently very difficult to find due to the environmental damage and the introduction of new species, based on McLean 2011. And also, Poropontius taurensis is listed on the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List as vulnerable and updated by the Conservation Planning Specialist Group as an endangered fish. So, Poropontius taurensis are extinct due to the ecological disturbance, pollution, introduction species, and unsustainable fishing in Laut Tawar Lake. So, based on this problem, so this study aimed to analyze the OODF hormone with different doses on the maturity of Poropontius taurensis. And for the materials and methods for the study, consisted of fish net, digital scales, sample bottles, broodstock fish, and alcohol OODF hormone. And this study used a completely randomized design method consisting of 3 treatments with 3 replications. And the treatments were as follows: treatment with OODF hormone dose 0 milliliter per kg, and B 0.25 milliliter per kg, and C treatment with OODF hormone dose 0.5 milliliter per kg. And for the result of this research, we can see in the table. So the study revealed the highest value found in treatment C, which the value of egg diameter was 0.87 millimeter, and coefficient of variation of egg was 6.46, and the fecundity was 1869, while the highest gonadosomatic index was found in treatment B. But actually, we can see the data statistically. In treatment B is not significant different with treatment C. Okay, this is the picture of ikan kawan, Poropontius taurensis. And for conclusion, so the OODF hormone induction on the maturity of Poropontius taurensis was better than without using OODF hormone induction. And for the dose of 0.5 was the best treatment, but not significantly different with a dose of 0.25. And also for the dose of 0.25 milliliter per kg is efficiently used to accelerate the gonadal maturity of Poropontius taurensis. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. So, because I'm the last presenter, so we now at the end of the presentation, and I would like to say thanks again for all the presenters for your excellent presentation and research, and hopefully the presentation will be beneficial for everybody. Okay, I will announce, don't forget to join for oral presentation at 1 25 p.m. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your attention. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, don't forget to fill the presence form.